I've got one more quick presentation before we move into the break. It's Mark Harvey, who's the partner of CM Capital. It's only going to be a quick 5-minute presentation. He's going to be talking about what VCs are looking at right now.
Great, thanks, Steve. It's interesting. Terry's pictures, no doubt, made a lot of you hungry. Well, to most entrepreneurs, the one thing that will take your appetite away is listening to a VC. Steve, where's the... Okay. So, as Steve said, I just want to run through and just give you a VC's perspective and what we actually look for, or what generally I believe that VCs look for in opportunities that come across. Just a little bit of background about CM Capital. We're your friendly local neighbourhood VC. We just live up the road here on Queen Street. We invest in life sciences and telecommunications, media and technology. We have 3 funds totaling 260 million under management. Our current fund's 153 million. We've invested in 20-something companies thus far, and just down the bottom here is a number of companies that we've invested in and a couple that we've exited. If any of you have children who have head lice, Full Marks is actually a product from one of our companies on the chemist stores in Australia, and it really is the best non-insecticide head lice treatment you'll find. So there's a quick plug for it. Just talk about some of the things that I think that will give you a little bit of understanding about VCs. What you find is that VCs invest in technology-based companies, and they have very specific focuses. And the basis of these focus is very much along really the background of what the individual partners at a VC firm will have. So some firms will invest in medical devices and drugs, others in telecommunications, engineering, etc. So those who are out there looking for funding, you can waste a lot of time from talking to a large number of investors. Really understanding what the investors' backgrounds are will help you sort through those investors who are particularly interested in your particular company. The other thing that will influence whether a VC is interested in investing in a particular company is what their prior experience has been. A VC who's invested in cardiac drugs or recycling technologies and have done very well will be very much inclined to want to invest in those sorts of technology companies again. Conversely, those who invested in a particular area and it hasn't done well, then obviously they would be less so interested in investing in that particular company. What do VCs generally look for? It's probably no surprise to those who've ever sort of analysed or got an understanding of how to take a company forward. The market, the technology, people, the plan, and the exit. My background's in life science, and what I've usually find is a lot of the entrepreneurs and inventors who come to see us really don't quite understand that mix. They'll come forward and talk about their technology and really don't understand all the other specifics. It is very, very important that when trying to obtain funding, that you really are able to address each of those specifics. And it is none of those specifics are more important than any other. Being able to understand and describe and address those is really going to help those in obtaining VC funding. Just very quickly, the market. This is something which is really, I think, poorly done by a lot of companies, and it is terrific when you see presentations when people come up and talk about the market and really get down to the nitty-gritty and what specific part of the market that they really address. Often you see people say, well, we've got a glucose monitoring device, and the diabetes market is $150 billion worldwide. Well, that may be so, which includes insulin sales and all the other specifics that goes into managing a disease such as diabetes. What their specific device is a subsector of that, and really understanding that subsector and being able to describe it is really important in understanding your market. The other important thing is what the market dynamics are. How certain devices are used or how a product, how it actually fits into a market is particularly important, and understanding how end users use it as well. For instance, I'll give you an example. We see technology, say, in the cardiovascular space, perhaps a particular device. And cardiologists, the way they earn money is to put patients through their offices or through their laboratories and do various tests. They like to do 10 or so in an afternoon. If you have a new device, even though that new device may improve a patient's outcome or may improve safety, but if it limits the number of patients a doctor's able to put through their catheter lab in an afternoon significantly, there will be a real pushback in adopting that particular type of technology. There is no substitute at the end of the day from talking to end users and understanding how end users use the current products in the market, and understanding what barriers that your product may have and how you can get over those barriers. I've just talked a little bit about some of the negatives. I mean, one other thing I'd say about the market from a VC's perspective is that we're essentially interested in the way new different types of approaches to a particular health solution. So, for instance, if we're not so much interested in another Me Too-like drug, we're really interested in drugs which will tackle a particular pathway from a completely different perspective. Same thing with engineering, and I think in also in the telecommunications and social media, the real success stories of those who have looked at it and come in to a particular problem or a solution from a completely different angle, and it's those sorts of technology companies that are done extremely well. VCs aren't interested in being so much as a Me Too. The technology, I'll say one point about this, and that's really that we're interested in the quality of the science, and a lot of the time we see some poor quality science. The basics actually hasn't been done. So even though there is that temptation to show proof of concept, etc., do not at any stage sacrifice the quality of the science. Doing proper controls, whatever, is really, really important. And also, I think in generally all areas, if it's a product that's going to compete in a certain space, having comparisons to what the existing product has is so important, whether it be a new drug, a device, in the medical field, a device to improve telecommunications, internet speed, etc. Having side-by-side comparison and doing those, the more you do that and you're able to demonstrate that, the quicker you'll get a VC's attention, and because that will be the first thing they will pick on and try and really understand. Another thing too, for those interested in the health sciences, is we have which is more of an issue or a particular issue in that particular speed as opposed to other sectors. We've got the regulatory path. There are strict pathways in getting a device, a diagnostic or a drug approved, and understanding what that pathway is and how long it will take is particularly important. Scott made a comment before that he sees companies on average which underestimate by 12 months. I'd really like to go and meet some of those companies, because a lot of the ones we see really underestimate that a long period of time. I won't go through all these. I think the presentation to be available, and if anyone wants to check that out. And finally, I think I'll just talk a little bit about the people. You don't have to have the full team when you come and see a VC. I mean, I think one of the things that VCs do actually bring to the table is their network. A VC that has expertise in a particular area, is invested in companies in that particular space, has built networks, etc., will help management teams to build out not only the management team, but advisory boards and also the board themselves. So, if you've got a great idea, technology, etc., don't think because you don't have everyone in place that's required to take this company forward that won't meet what a VC. One of the things VCs will always like to do is to bring the expertise that they know into a particular company to help that particular company go forward. And finally, the exit, really, really important. How is the investor going to get out of the technology? And I think one of the best ways to exemplify this, I mean, there's only really two ways that you can get our money out of of investing in a technology. One through is selling the shares, and the obvious is in by selling shares on a public market. A lot of biotech companies have very small turnovers. That's very, very difficult. If a VC owns 20% of the company and there's only $1,000 worth of turnover each day, that makes it very, very difficult for us. What we will always look towards and will be favourably seen is a company in a particular space where there are acquisitions by the larger companies. So, for instance, to use Terry's example, of producing a new type of gluten-free bread. You know, how active Goodman Fielder has been in that particular space. Acquiring technologies would be seen as a real plus for us. The same as us, when investing in drugs or pharmaceuticals or devices, how active the likes of Pfizer, Medtronic, etc. have been in that particular space, and being able to show deals that have done in recent times will be seen as a real positive. What VCs like is what the likes of Medtronic and Pfizer and BHP and Goodman Fielder and DuPont, what they like, and how inquisitive and the acquisitions that they've gone through is what we're interested in. I'll leave you with that disclaimer. Thanks.